1947, a brutal year in the history of India. Brutal enough to send shiver down the spine of those who face that nightmare and for those who hear that heat wrenching stories passed down through generation. For my grandfather, through the heat of that scorching summer will always bring back the painful memories that he had forever tried to have behind in 1947. He didn't lose just anybody. He lost someone very special, and it was he who once told me of this beautiful poignant tale. My grandfather from Sialkot, a small town in British India. Every time he recounted the story of his childhood, of his past, of all that he was left behind, he would be reduced to tears remembering those 4 days of brutal manslaughter. He had lost his sister, he had lost Rukhsana. Now in Pakistan, Sialkot was a historic and populous town in British India. My grandfather was only a young teenager then. The area where he used to live was predominantly inhabited by Muslim families. There were very few Hindus family. My grandfather's family was the only Sikh family in the area. He was the youngest with three elder sisters. Rukhsana was a close friend of Mindro, my grandfather's elder sister. Darji, as I call him, told me Rukhsana had four sisters and a brother, who unfortunately died very young because of some incredible disease. Greatly saddened by that misfortune, the family tried to come to grips with reality. But over a period of time, Rukhsana found a harbor for all her affection in my grandfather. She started treating him as her little brother. This went on to further cement the friendship of Rukhsana and Mindro, making them family. As my grandfather remembered, Rukhsana was almost 8 or 9 years older to him. Life was greatly reassuring in its normality, and there was peace everywhere. But Darji would often mumble, "Destiny loves to play with innocent people." Living in the house adjacent to my grandfather's was a young man named Dayaram, son of a wealthy businessman. Dayaram and his family deal in woolen cloth. Although he spent most of his time traveling for business, whenever he was in Sialkot, his one and only cousin was Rukhsana. They would meet whenever they got to opportunity. At times he would come to my grandfather's house where Rukhsana spent most of her time with Mindro, and then again he would meet her in the sugarcane field or even at the Gurdwara. Soon the fame of their love warmed the local gossip circle. Rukhsana was beaten black and blue by her parents, was placed under house arrest. No one was allowed to meet her. Even Mindro would be subjected to thorough investigation whenever she went to see her closest friend. Rukhsana's cousin, along with a few young men, started harassing Manikaram, Dayaram's father. Manikaram ignored them because he could see how the political atmosphere was changing every day, and he was one of the few Hindu living in that area. As fate would have it, Dayaram was out of town when these circumstances disputed the two families. When he returned home, he tasted the turbulence. He decided to talk to Rukhsana's parents, propose marriage. Manikaram tried to convince Rukhsana's father too, but they were furious, warned Manikaram with dire consequence if this went on any further. Darji says they were more furious because of the social pressure of the time, and that it was very disturbing for any person living in that particular scenario. Talk to partition further fueled that range of getting married to a person from a different religion was like organizing a personal rito. Dayaram's family was very comfortable with Rukhsana's. They were more than happy to organize a lavish wedding for them, but Rukhsana's family reminded against it. And then come Black Day, humanity when the British rulers of the country divided India into two, gave birth to a new nation, Pakistan. At this point, while telling me the story, Darji cleared his throat and asked for a glass of water. His face seemed to age a million years, and wrinkled skin looked more wrinkled and dull as he went back in time to that inauspicious day when he lost his loved ones. I sat at his feet, placing my head on his lap, silently asking forgiveness for remembering him for those cruel times. He caressed my head and kissed my forehead, for a few tears trickled down that wizened face. People went mad and started killing each other. Your name was enough for a person for, of a different religion to chop you into pieces. Hindu and Sikh families left everything they had and left their hometown forever. Thousands were killed and thousands of women were brutally raped. Innocent children lost their parents and many unlucky parents lost their little ones. Everyone started leaving their homes, leaving everything behind. Many people lost faith in humanity and in God. Darji said his father, my grandfather, tried to grab whatever little was possible for him and took his family to a refugee camp where the government had made arrangement to transport people to their new homes, or rather to their only hope of several military conveys, escorts truck loaded with refuse, destitutes with wet fat and dry ice. It was a horrible time of being. The smell of death and pain was all over. Everyone just wanted it all to be end. Miraculously, at this time, Rukhsana's mother convinced Dayaram and Rukhsana to elope before everybody found them. Faithfully, they boarded the same truck which had my grandfather and his family. Everyone was happy because no one had ever thought that Rukhsana's fanatic family member would support this relation. My grandfather noticed that Rukhsana's mother had given her a small tiffin box saying, बेटा ये पीर बाबा दा लंगर दी खीर है तोड़े दोनों दी हिफाजत करेगी खा लेना. It was sweet rice pudding from Holy Shine, a blessing to protect them both from evil eye. With that, she bid goodbye to with tears in her eyes, promised Dayaram that she would help his parents to boarding the truck safely. Everyone was certain that the thought circumstance had changed her. They could not have been moved more wrong. The Wagah border of India was almost 180 kilometers from Sialkot, but it took refuse 3 or 4 days to cover that distance because of the ritos. The truck started from Sialkot, and after 5 or 6 hours of traveling, they had covered merely 20 or 30 kilometers and stopped at Gujanwala. Rukhsana opened the tiffin and asked everyone to have some kheer, but everyone graciously declined, seeing how the tiffin was small enough for only a single person to have his or her fill. Dayaram and Rukhsana finished that kheer and everyone was happy for them. And then Dayaram started to vomit, and as did Rukhsana. Within minutes, their bodies began to turn blue. The kheer was poisoned. With the last ounce of strength left her body, Roxana smiled and thanked her mother for everything. She removed one of her gold bangles stuffed with precious stone and gave it to my grandfather. ये मेरी परजाई वास्ते हैं. And then she was gone, her head hanging limply in Darji's lap. Dayarams gently pressed his shaking hand against his cold Ruxana's head as he too joined her in their eternal bliss. Telling me the story, Darji was now sobbing as his heart broke all over again. Back in time, in that truck, Darji had started crying bitterly, as had Mindro and the rest of the family. Fear gripped everyone. The military troop eloped, escorting the truck, and ordered that he dead bodies be turned out instantly. But Darji protested. She was his sister. The troop had beaten him, then warned my great grandfather with their consequence if they didn't agree. Finally, the men ruthlessly threw their dead bodies from the moving truck. For next 4 days, no one ate anything from stranger, or for no that matter, even from close acquaintance belonging to the other religion. Anything could be poisoned. On the fifth day, Darji and his family reached India, but they had lost a lot more than the secure future of Sialkot, where my great grandfather, had owned a huge haveli and a flourishing business. I would let I would later see my grandmother wear that beautiful gold bangle, and I remembering having asked her where where the second bangle was. After all, to me, the set was incomplete. Finally, on that day, my grandfather told me your late grandmother would call you Dayaram secretly. She was sure he was reborn in you. He added, the day you told us about your beloved Harpreet, she removed that bangle and told me रुखसाना आ गई है. अब ये उसकी अमानत है. To her, to her it meant that Rukhsana was back to in the in the form of my Harpreet, and that the bangle was always here to begin with. Only then did I realize that I was pampered so much, and why BG heirloom bangle was gifted to Harpreet by her on my wedding day. Darji also told me that Dayaram's family was brutally murdered by Rukhsana's cousin, and his bhabhi was mercilessly raped by them for many days and finally killed them when she tried to escape for many months. Trouble news from land they had left behind came and hunt them in their nightmarish existence. A few days after telling me this story, Darji was in bed, breathing the high fever. Perhaps he was traumatized by visiting his long lost past, and truth be told, after listening to his story, even I was considerably distributed in those few days. I realized it is more important how you live your life, how many people loved you, rather than becoming rich and famous, but living a life of greedy and selfishness. And this is one of the reason why I thought to know more about people who live and died for their love. Now every time that I look at the beautiful bangle, all it remind me of are those who eternal loves Rukhsana and Dara.